Hi, I am Monique and welcome back to In Her Era, the podcast that gives you the tools and life lessons to help you step into your era as the woman you were always meant to be. Have you ever felt like even though you're achieving something, it's just not good enough? If you stop, you're going to lose all momentum. You're not going to achieve the things that you want. Because I am raising a hand because that is me. I remember sitting down with my teacher and he was like, Monique, you are on the fastest track to burnout. And I was in grade 7. So even as an adult, it's showing up with the guilt to rest or feeling like I have to constantly achieve or it has to always be perfect or I'm tying my worth to my performance. And I know that so many women struggle with this too. So I thought, what but a person to bring on than someone who sees this day in and day out with her clients, but someone who has also experienced this personally. Chloe Cassidy is an accredited mental health social worker, psychotherapist, and founder of Mind Care Avenue, a boutique mental health clinic who supports clients across Australia. With a background in neuroscience and a trauma-informed approach, Chloe specializes in helping high-achieving women navigate grief, burnout, identity shifts, and emotional overwhelm. This episode is a really deep one. It's honest, it's raw. Chloe shares a part of her story that she has not really shared before online, and I feel so honored that she felt so comfortable to share it in this space, and I know that it will be so valuable for any of the women listening. So if you are someone that ties your worth to your productivity, if you feel stressed or guilt when you stop, this episode was made for you. Chloe Cassidy, welcome to In Her Era.
Thank you, Monique. Thanks for having me.
I am so excited you are here. I just want to get straight to the point because I feel like today is going to be like a mini therapy session for me and probably other people online that really resonate, especially as high achievers, because you work a lot with high achieving women. And I think from the outside, it looks like, oh, they're so successful. They're juggling all these things. They're doing all this stuff. But behind closed doors, because that is what you see, there's, from what I perceive, there's inner narrative that we talk about, or there's these struggles behind closed doors that not everyone sees from the external. So what are they?
Where I see most of my clients that come into the private practice, they tend to come in and start talking about all of these things that they're doing. So they're working full time, they could be mothers, they're supporting their friends, they've grieving from a loss of a loved one, or major life changes, so heartbreaks, or they've just gone through a massive move. So behind closed doors, what really comes out in therapy is what we call schemas. So schemas are these core beliefs that we learn from childhood, and these deep inner beliefs. So like our core beliefs that you probably talk about with your clients as well, that come out in terms of perfectionism. So if I keep pushing myself to the limit, then I must be doing something great, okay? So in terms of that is when we're doing something, working full time, and we're studying full time and we're doing all these things, but behind closed doors, we're snapping at our loved ones, or we're feeling really anxious, or we're not sleeping and we're burning out. And we put it down to, oh, we must be working so much. But really underneath that is these unhealed traumas and sort of like wounds from childhood. So my question to you would be, with you doing your business and you're seeing all these clients and you're doing your podcast, what are some things that come up for you? So are you feeling overwhelmed and anxious, or are you tend to suppressing your emotions and you're trying to push yourself forward every day? That's where I would deep dive with my clients. And then sort of what we sort of do is we write down what they do in a day and we analyze that. So for instance, if this client that I had the other day, she's a hairdresser, she's just expanding her business. She's got 2 kids, she's going through a divorce, and she lost her friend to suicide.
Oh my gosh.
So her friend had, one of her good friends had passed 3 weeks ago, and it was completely unexpected.
Yeah.
So in terms of grieving, where do you start with that? So she's got a business to run. She can't take leave from work like people that I guess work in government. She's got 2 kids to keep showing up for. So where does she start with that? So that's where we unpack, and I get her to name these losses, name these griefs. Because if we don't give a name to these feelings, we can't ever start, feeling them or working through them. And that's where our healing sort of starts, in our rest period.
Oh my gosh, there is so much that I could say here. I think for women, when you asked me those questions, I was like, there is so much. There is so much that you could pull out. And I think sometimes it's hard for people to name things. So just like you said, like naming those griefs. Talking about if we go to what other women feel and what I think is very common, and if you were asking me, I think a lot of people tie their worth to output and achievement. Like for me, as an example, I remember in school, I would be anything less than an A- was a failure. I would always want to be the best since grade 5. So that has been ingrained, like you said, since well before I'm like consciously perceiving it. So if you were talking to someone like me and women that experience that and tying their worth to their output, what would you say around that?
So as children, if we are getting attention, if we are getting love or I suppose, attention from our parents, if we're tying achievement to doing something well, that's what we learn as children and that's what we take into adulthood. So I guess it's just easier for me to explain from like my childhood, right? So my sister and I were competitive swimmers. So my sister went to like the Australian team for open water swimming. Like she's a high achiever. She doesn't swim anymore. But for instance, I don't remember a time where our parents had said to us, "We're so proud of you," because it was an expectation that we won the race. It was an expectation that we did well at school. So similar to you, but you're putting those expectations on yourself.
Yeah.
And you've brought them forward now to your early teens, your adult life, your career. And now you're getting to the point where, I'm probably just hypothesizing here, but you're learning to, I guess, unwire those core beliefs.
Yeah.
And trying to slow down. Because that's where you feel, I suppose, that's where you really start to enjoy the little things in life. So what I would say to you as the little girl, if you can think back to, I guess, little Monique when she was in grade 5 and grade 6 and getting an A-, as the healed Monique and the adult, healthy adult, what would you then say to little Monique?
I would say that it's okay to show up exactly as you are. You're good enough just as you are, which I think is, like, saying it now, it feels okay, but also that little part of me that doesn't also believe it.
And if you were to hold on to that little part and really deep, which I won't make you do it here on camera because we might have to call it quits.
Yeah.
But with clients, that's when I start trying to get the healthy adult talking to the little adult and the little child, and starting to, I guess, highlight what we learn as children. So we talk about the abandonment schema a lot, right? So if we aren't perfect, if we aren't the perfect girlfriend, if we aren't the perfect employee, if we aren't the perfect friend, as a child, if we learnt that we have to be perfect and that's how we receive love, that's what you're going to bring into an adult relationship, right? And I guess that's where most relationships become quite toxic, because you suppress your own emotions and then you try and be perfect for this person, but you're never going to meet their standards because you're trying to meet little Monique's standards.
Yeah. Okay.
Does it make sense? Or
Yeah,
not really?
totally does.
Okay.
Totally does. So perfectionism, I feel like, is such a prominent topic, whether that's you can't show up online because it's not perfect enough, or in relationships, like you said, like you have to be this perfect version of yourself, or when you write an email and you misspell something and you hate yourself for it. You know what I mean? So if you had advice for someone listening who's like, they resonated with everything you said, what would be something that they could do or take away from this to be like, they could start and implement it today?
So one of my clients is a HR advisor, so dealing with employees all the time and employee relation issues. And she's also a high achiever going through her own struggles. But at work, she will read an email and probably take 2 hours to reply to this email to ensure that it's perfect, to make sure it's not taken out of context.
Yeah.
So what we did last week is we broke it down and we got down to what was her actual trigger behind that. And it came down to she's always had to be perfect throughout her life. So that is, in terms of like schema and therapy, what we're talking about is those unrelenting schemas. So we're not, how do I explain it? Like self-sacrificing, right?
Yeah.
As women, we always self-sacrifice. So the tool that we got to do in therapy last week was she took a day off and she had no plan for that day off. She didn't have to earn that day off. She just took a day off. And then she didn't check her emails. And the next day she came into work and she read 10 emails at a time and only let herself have 5 to 10 minutes to reply to them.
Oh, I love this.
They didn't have to be perfect. But what she did was she kept on, like her time management was obviously getting better. She wasn't stuck in that fight or flight because she was learning to push through it. So when we're really stuck in that fight or flight so that, you know, our nervous system is just heightened, which I know you talk about a lot in your work with your clients, when we start to slow down, that becomes so foreign and our body doesn't know how to, our body doesn't understand what rest is. So I guess that's where it comes into how do we let our bodies rest without having a massive to-do list? Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah.
And I feel like, speaking for me, and I'm sure that everyone relates, the rest, the guilt that comes with resting, and I think that it's almost like, yeah, if you're not producing all the time because this to-do list never ends. When you rest, you feel this like immense guilt for literally watching 2 Netflix shows in a row instead of 1 because, I don't know, we need that, but at the same time, it will be at the back of my mind. How do we, well, why? Firstly, why? Why is that there? And then how would we overcome it?
I think from being women, we are always raised to be perfect. We can't have emotions, we have to suppress them, and we have to have everything together. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I suppose, and I guess we're talking about like gender roles, right? We're raised as women to be self-sacrificing. So we sacrifice our time for our children to have more. We sacrifice our time for our partners to have more. And we always put people first. So there's a lot of women that are empaths, not everyone, but a lot of women that are empaths. So we feel people's emotions so heavily. So in order for us to rest, that doesn't feel natural for us. So that's where we try and strip back, where is that trigger coming from? So what are we telling ourselves in our head? So if you were watching, you know, one Netflix episode and you put on a second one, what is your inner dialogue saying at the time?
Oh, Monique.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Monique. As Monique.
No, yeah. I was like, I would say what always happens is like, oh, you've got X, Y, Z to do. You could be doing this.
Okay. And then so to challenge that thought, what could you say as if you were talking to a client or a friend?
This is what I say all the time. Rest is productive because you are more creative. You can think more naturally from a brain and from a neuroscience lens. Our brain doesn't work all the time. Yeah. And I know that, and I'm sure a lot of your clients probably know it as well.
Yeah.
But I still have that underlying, I could say all the time I want rest is productive, but I still have it at the back of my head.
And I think it is a hard road to keep navigating because that is so ingrained in you, right? That's become basically who Monique is or who we are as a person. And that's when I suppose it's important for us to write down what our values are in our life. What are we really valuing, I suppose, in our daily life, and where do we want our next 5 years to be? And are we aligning with that? So with clients, I sort of finished our sessions off with what are our top five priorities for the next week, fortnightly, whatever our schedule is on, and what can you do every day to keep working towards that? So for you, or for anyone that is struggling to rest, what I would always suggest is I suppose it's like exercise, right? You know, for someone that wanted to start exercising every single day, you're going to do that for a week and be burnt out.
Mm-hmm.
So how can we slowly start? So for people that are struggling to rest, I would always say, can you twice a day for 5 minutes, set yourself an alarm and check in with yourself? Just like you're having a leadership meeting with your inner dialogue. Check in with yourself, do a deep breathing and sort of set yourself up for the afternoon. That's been working for me, and that's been working for a few of my clients, like those regular check-ins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. I think it's exactly what you said. It's not going from I need to be better at this and try and do it perfectly. And I'm a big believer, I've talked about this I think a million times, everyone's probably sick of me saying it, is like micro actions and adding it in incrementally because that's what builds a habit over time.
Yeah.
So one strategy I have used, which I have loved and I tell people about, is like a decompression walk at the end of the day to signify my I guess my work time, which can be so productive and so on to transitioning into home life, to be able to be a little bit more
present.
Yeah. Because I'm not being able to give my best version to my partner or not being able to recharge as effectively if work is bleeding into the evenings. Do you find that as well with some of your clients?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think because we're high achievers, we're just so destined to just go, go, go. So I'm sure you see with your clients, like they're working full time, they're exercising, they're coming home, they're cooking dinner, they're trying to spend quality time with their partner or their kids or their loved ones, but they're still exhausted.
Yes.
And I understand that, you know, in today's society that it's not easy for everyone to just not work as much, right? Yep. You know, cost of living is crazy high right now. So how, like you said, those micro habits, like how can you start those small things every single day? So for instance, for me, as many of you can probably tell, I'm an anxious soul. So every morning I always wake up and instead of just jumping out of bed, I sit on the side of the bed and I do what's called the physiological sigh. So it's you breathe in for 3 and then you breathe up another 2 and then all the way out through the mouth. So what that does is it sort of resets your nervous system. And I suppose that's a good way to start your day, because if we're starting the day with breathing and in a time where I guess a point where our body is just relaxed. And then I suppose what I try and get everyone to do is, so romanticize washing your face in the morning, because that's a luxury not many of us can do. You know, simplify your face routine, make your coffee and sit outside. Like, is it an extra 5 minutes in your morning really going to make that much of a difference to your day? But it will make a difference to your quality of life.
Yeah.
You know, in a world where we're so busy all the time, we can't just jet set across the world and take a 2-week holiday, or do you know what I mean?
Yeah, agreed.
So how do we romanticize the little things in life and build that quality of life as well? Yeah. When we're hustling so hard, like high achievers, we don't take holidays. Well, we should, and we definitely need to. But like, as you said, your decompression walk, how else can you romanticize that? Do you sit there afterwards and watch the beach, watch the water, or sit in the park and watch the birds and kids play? That's what I'm really, and I'm working on myself to do it as well, but I've started that with my clients in the last month, and I've just seen such a change in them being more present.
Yeah.
And their expectations with their partners, right? Like we see on social media all the time, these, I shouldn't say influencers, but people that, you know, getting a whole trip paid to Italy from their boyfriends.
Yes.
Right? So we're expecting that to happen to us. Where let's start romanticizing having like dinner on the lounge room floor with candles and watch TV.
Oh my gosh, I could not agree more. Like it's so funny. My partner went fishing, this is so random, went fishing and he cooked me like fresh fish.
Yeah, wow.
And it was like we had it with a glass of wine, the candles were on, the music was playing, and I was like, it was just a chill night. And I was like, this is a core memory. Like it felt so beautiful. And it's just the little things. And for me, it was that moment of being like, we should be romanticizing all little parts of our life, because at the end of the day, all those little moments, all those little micro actions make up your full life.
Absolutely.
And I've been doing similar to what you said. Like I told you, I'm very output productive, doing all the things, but how can I intentionally add those moments into my day? And it's what I'm doing with my clients who are also very high achievers, because there is no point in all this productivity and all this output if you are not enjoying the journey or enjoying your life surrounding that.
And it's going to show in your work.
Totally.
Right? Like if you're so burnt out and you're not enjoying what you're doing, your clients are going to know. Your friends are going to know. Like, do you want to be remembered, or probably not remembered, as the friend that just drifted off because you're working 24/7?
Yeah.
Like, I suppose it comes down to complicated grief, right? We talk about grief isn't just losing a loved one. You know, we grieve who we thought we were at 30. We grieve a timeline we thought we would meet, like we'd be married and kids by a certain age.
Yeah, literally when I was 16, I was like, I'll be married by 23, kids by 25.
Yeah, and you have your whole wedding planned out. But that's just not life.
Yeah.
Right? And it is for some, and that's amazing that that's their journey. But it's really hard, especially, I know you talk a lot to it with social media, that we're comparing ourselves so much these days. And that's so toxic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I want to talk about grief for a bit, because you are quite open about it online. It's something that's very raw, very personal to you. Would you be open to sharing that part of your story?
Yeah. So grief for me isn't just about losing one person. So by the age of 12, I'd already been to 5 family funerals. I only met my mum's parents a couple times. They died of cancer and a lung disease. My dad's dad died 6 months after I was born, and I never had anything to do with my dad's mum. So no real grandparents in my life. No auntie and uncles. My mum's sister died late 30s with cancer. And then by age of 14, my parents divorced, and I was estranged from my dad for quite some time. So it's probably like another grief that a lot of people can relate to.
Yeah.
You know, growing up without a parent in the house, or complicated divorces, like that breaks families apart. And then early last year, my dad was diagnosed with a life-changing illness. He's on the mend now, but we've sort of reconnected, and it's been okay. And then late last year in October, end of October, my sister and I had lost our mum suddenly and unexpectedly, which is a loss that I've only obviously just started talking about. And I suppose it's why I started doing what I'm doing for high achievers. My mum was an incredible woman. Like, she was like an ICU nurse, like an ED nurse. She was an educator. She was so well respected. She was a friend. She was, this incredible woman that just had so much life to live. But she didn't heal or process any of her lifetime trauma. And unfortunately, she lost her battle to that. And I guess that's where my compassion lies, in helping high achievers really slow down and process that grief, because life can be taken from you so quickly.
Yeah.
My sister and we are still going through the process of managing my mum's deceased estate, which I never thought as a 28-year-old I would ever have to even navigate. I mean, as what I do for a job in the hospital, I help people on their worst of days. So I work in ED and ICU when we have, car accidents come in, and I'm doing viewings for people, like their loved ones have to go and identify their dead bodies. I've, helped mothers through stillbirths and doing memory making for little babies that didn't quite make it. Palliative care for elderly people that lost their loved ones. So there's a lot of grief professionally that I hold, a lot of grief from my clients, but personally there's a lot of grief there, which has now changed the way that I see myself. I was always someone who was just rushing around, trying to make the most of life. But now I realize that life can just be taken from you so quickly. which is not something I've shared too much in depth with online before. So thank you for having that space for me to share that.
Of course.
Yeah.
And I think it will help so many people,
Yeah.
especially as someone, as you said, you're also a high achieving person. You thought just doing and living the most out of life. How do you then process something that's taken away from you so fast and unexpectedly? Because I think some people prepare.
Absolutely, right. I mean, I've helped a number of people prepare to, lose their loved ones, like through palliative care. Like, I believe with palliative care, like death, we only die once. So how can I make that beautiful for their family? But with my mum and my sister, it was only us since like the age of 17. So we were so close. My mum and my sister were a lot closer because they're both nurses. But for me, I went straight back to work after I lost mum. I didn't know what to do. Yeah. Like, I only took a week and a half off work because I had no idea how to process that grief. All I knew was working full time, trying to see clients on the side, showing up for everyone else. My sister was pregnant at the time. She's just had a little baby and she lost a twin in that pregnancy.
Oh my God.
So showing up for her as well. Up until probably a month ago was when I just broke. And I think, as you said, like that's what's really important to highlight, that we can keep suppressing all these emotions and keep working hard. But unless we acknowledge it, unless we name these feelings and this grief, it's going to come out in a really ugly way.
What if you could go back to you back then?
Yeah.
Because it's always like we teach all these things, but we don't do.
I know, like hindsight's a lovely thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you would go back to that time, what would you do now?
I was only reflecting in my last, like I go to therapy. I mean, it's probably taken me way too long to admit that I need to go see someone. But I was only reflecting last week when I had my session, and I dissociated the whole day of my mum's funeral. Like, I genuinely was showing up for everyone else with a big smile on my face, giving everyone else a hug. Like, there was probably 400 and something people at mum's funeral. Like, she had an amazing reputation as a nurse and as just a friend. And I remember, as probably like a high achiever or just a woman or just that empath that just wanted to give everyone, I showed up for everyone. That I don't even remember really doing my mum's eulogy. So if I went through from me now, if I could go back to Chloe that day or even during that period, I would tell her to slow down, that this is something you never expected was going to happen, and just try and be present and feel it. Yeah. Because if you don't feel these emotions at the time that it happens, it is just so heavy when you try and unpack it. In therapy last week, I just kept shaking my head because the therapist was trying to get me to just tell her how I felt, and I couldn't do it. And for me, that came from a sense of, as soon as I admit those feelings, I lose control, right? So like, as high achievers, as people that just keep pushing on, we suppress emotions because as soon as we acknowledge it, we lose control. Yeah.
I think that is such a strong, to be able to do what you did so unexpectedly is such a character. It's so strong as a woman. As I think from my seat where I'm listening to, you took the role as that strong pillar. Yeah. And it might have felt like, oh, I can't break down, I can't, because I am the one welcoming everyone, holding it together, especially because are you the eldest?
No, I'm the youngest of three. Like, just my sister and I, so 3 years. Yeah.
And it felt like, to me, it's like you had to be that strong person. And I think that's very common for women. It's like, I have to be that strong person and support everybody else and not work through your emotions. Is that what you...
I believe so. And I think, as you just said that, it just made sense, is like, who holds you? Like, who holds you in those... But are you would you let someone hold you?
Yeah, that question. Yeah.
Like, probably not.
Yeah, agreed.
Like, I could sit here and say, yeah, I should have been more present. I should have let my partner help me instead of pushing him away. But I don't think at the time I had done enough work to be able to let someone in enough and hold me in that vulnerable sense.
Yeah.
And I just want to preface that comes to every type of grief, right? Like every breakup is so different. Every time we lose a job is so different. But as high achievers and as women specifically, who is holding us? Like who holds us as women?
Yeah.
But then that goes further, and would we let anyone hold us? Because then that would admit that we're not perfect. We don't have it all together. And those are those core beliefs that we have to be.
And I think it's that control as well. We're
yeah.
taking, I would say I love being in control. And you're taking away the control and letting people know that you actually need help. I think asking for help is sometimes the hardest thing to admit. Or if we do ask for help, it's like the tiniest little thing.
It's like, oh, do you mind just picking up bread from the shop on the way home?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we'll do like the lion's share. In that time, you know, you had your family, your sister, you're currently still going through the estate, which no one should, you know, have to do at your age. It's not something you expect to do. What do you feel like you're learning through this process about you? Because you said before that you almost like lost part of who you are or lost a part of that. I remember reading it in a piece of content that you wrote where you said, my grief didn't make me stronger. It made me an expert at surviving and a stranger to myself. And so knowing that and going through this process still now, what are you kind of learning and unpacking?
That is a tough question. Trust you to bring the tough questions.
Literally.
What I'm learning right now is I can achieve, how do I explain it? What I'm learning right now is I will always set myself up to get the job I wanted to get the job, right? So I've pushed myself to my career at a point where I can't really go further than that with Queensland Health. So I should be stoked. I did that at the age of 25, right? But that wasn't good enough. So I kept moving forward. I kept chasing the next best thing.
Moving the goalposts.
Absolutely, because I wasn't comfortable and just slowing down. I did not know how to enjoy the little things because I always had to be there for my mum. I always had to be there for my sister. I think similar maybe to you, like you're the go-to friend. You're the one that everyone comes to for help. Like you'll help the person on the side of the road if you could, you know? And what I'm learning is we can't be everything for everyone because we will lose ourselves. Just the way that I did, I suppose. I was dissociating a lot of my life, even before I lost my mum, because it was too uncomfortable to feel. So for me now, those uncomfortable feelings is what projects us further, is what is going to make us enjoy life a lot more and less, I guess, rigid and controlling.
Yeah.
Because we can't be perfect. We can't have it all together.
Yeah.
I think, is that what you asked?
Yeah, no, that's so perfect. No, that's so good. If you were saying when you dissociated during your time of your mum's funeral and before then, do you now know why or what was the underlying reason why you felt like I completely removed myself from the situation?
Because I was grieving my mum even 5 years ago. So before we'd even lost mum, I was grieving the version of her that was my mum as a child. She lost herself to her own trauma and her own, I guess, struggles. And why I was dissociating from it, because it was too painful. Yeah. It was too painful to watch someone you love just decline so fast.
Yeah.
And at the funeral, I didn't want it to be real. Like, I know that we as children, we will probably 9 times out of 10 always go to our parents' funeral. Like, that makes sense, right? But we would plan it with them. We would know what their wishes are. Like, Jade and I my sister, we had no idea what she wanted. We didn't know if she wanted to be cremated or buried or did she want to wake? Like, I have no idea. So we just did what we thought was right, but it's the guilt. Like, could I have helped her more?
Yeah.
Could I have done more? And especially as what I do as a profession, I should have seen this coming. But I know now as healthy Chloe and healed Chloe, I know that is a dangerous path to go down.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But that guilt is always going to be there. So for me and for my clients that I see, how do we live with that guilt? And how do we make peace with that guilt?
Mm-hmm.
And a tool that I've been using and my clients have been using is putting pen to paper, right? So what we do is called grief mapping. We write a circle, like we draw a circle on a piece of paper, write our name, and we literally write down the griefs that we've experienced, the griefs that we haven't identified or put a name to. For instance, a loss of identity. When we didn't get that job at 16 at the fish and chip shop that we really wanted with our best friend, like that's a grief. Right? I just want to make it clear that you don't have to go through something similar to my story to be struggling with grief. So with the grief mapping, we write down, heartbreak, relationships, losing the job, not getting the house, not being financially where you want to be, and acknowledging that. Because when we don't acknowledge it, as I said earlier, we just keep suppressing it.
Yeah.
And you're going around in circles and you get frustrated and you lash out to your loved ones and then you begin isolating yourself.
Yeah. I think it's so interesting you said that as well. You mentioned it at the beginning as well, because I had never ever thought like grief being like that job that I didn't get or that, a relationship that you thought was going to go a certain way. Some people think like, oh, that's going to be the person I marry or stay with forever, and it doesn't go that way and it gets taken away. And there's so much grief that I would not have considered as grief. So writing it down, naming it, and acknowledging that it is grief. But what would be then the next step?
So finding a ritual that works for you, right? So grief isn't logical. We need to be able to make peace with it and put it in a routine. So for instance, this can be as simple as lighting a candle once a week at the same time and acknowledging that grief. Having your cup of coffee in the morning and whispering a few words to that lost opportunity, that lost loved one, and incorporating that grief in your everyday life and acknowledging it. So, the next step, writing it down, whatever works for you. So we can't heal unless our body is in a place where we can let that emotion in. So, somatic healing. So that's where you do your deep breathing to be able to be in a state of mind to have these conversations. Yeah. So those micro habits. So starting your day off with breathing, having that cup of coffee, journaling. Like journaling is so therapeutic.
Yeah.
People just think that it's woo-woo and...
Or they don't know what to write. I have heard that a million times.
Oh my goodness. So like sometimes my journals don't even make sense. Like it is just a bunch of random words or something that I'll look back on the next week and be like, yeah, okay, that came up last week too. That's something that I keep suppressing, right?
Yeah.
So journaling can teach you a lot about yourself. It's also very confronting.
Yeah.
And talking to it about with a friend. Like we don't want to trauma dump on our friends by any means. Like keep that for like a therapeutic space, but letting it be real and letting people in is the next step. Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that. I think it's something that they can tangibly do. So it'd be like writing it down, acknowledging it, and then incorporating it throughout your day. How do you know, though, when you're like, I don't have to keep thinking about this all the time?
Because it would just become a habit.
Right.
So I don't even think about having to do breathing or slowing down my morning coffee or whatnot. And you'll know that it's working because when you're journaling and journaling appropriate, like properly, that the same thing isn't coming up.
Yeah,
because the same thing is going to keep coming up if you haven't processed that or acknowledged it.
Yeah. And it shows up. I have found this as well, even in my perfectionism tendencies or my need to be having this high output, which I have been working a lot on this year. I have noticed that I will work through something and then another thing will come up and trigger me. And I'm like, oh, look, there's more that I have to learn and unpack. So do you find even in your cases or your clients' cases, it's more just like new level, new devil? Like they unpack, you do so much work and you think you're good and then something comes and triggers it and it brings it back.
I guess yes and no, right? Because as you're working through these triggers, you're also what I call is like your invisible toolbox, right? So you're learning these skills. You're learning to acknowledge it as a trigger, name the feeling, fact check it. Yeah. So like, for instance, let's talk about anxiety. So if you're working away at a cafe and you're like, yep, tick that off. Oh my God, I still have 10 more things on my to-do list. You're now anxious over it. Do those 10 things really matter right now? Do I need to get them done today? Is it life-changing? No. What can I do to make me feel better about it? All right, let's schedule a time in and prioritize it. I call it triaging, being way too clinical. Let's prioritize it and let's make a plan moving forward. So it's called like the CBT, so cognitive behavior therapy triangle. So think of it as situation, what's making me anxious, what is the feeling, so what is the negative thought, and what is the behavior? So where are you feeling that in your body? You know, are you overwhelmed and feeling really sick in your belly? Is your throat really tight? And so that's going to be able to, you're going to be able to pick up on your triggers and, you know, is it like a 3 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10? And that's how you're going to know to triage properly.
Yeah.
Right? So the more that you become aware of your triggers, the more you're going to learn about yourself and the easier it is to process it because things are going to keep coming up in life. You're going to keep getting triggered. You're never going to not be triggered by something.
Yeah.
And so it's just about building your toolkit and be able to move forward with it.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's almost like your rebound rate is faster.
Right. Yeah.
Because you're learning how you're identifying it, which I think is always the hardest part, identifying that this might be triggering me or like this is the emotion that's coming up because of it. And then CBT, like you talked about, is that right?
Yeah, cognitive behavior therapy. Yeah.
And
the
then
triangle.
understanding the trigger, why it's coming up or the emotion behind it and then where you're feeling it.
So relatable example.
Yeah.
Traffic. This morning, very triggering because I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to be so late. So are you someone that gets like road rage? Are you someone that stresses about being late? So your situation is, oh my God, there's so much traffic. That's making me so angry. I'm going to be so late. Can I change it? Absolutely not. I can't teleport there. Okay. What is my behavior to move forward from that? Because I'm so frustrated, sweating, like so anxious. I just did my deep breathing and put on a playlist and I was fine driving here. Do you know what I mean? So I think we really overthink triggers because it's like that word gets thrown around a lot.
Yeah, and it feels bigger than probably it is.
Yeah. And I think at some point with social media like being so prevalent in everyone's life, I think we've lost our way a little bit of we can actually regulate our own emotions. We don't need every single app out there. We don't need every single manifestation toolkit. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like you at some point need to take responsibility for your own emotions. Yes, that can be learnt from childhood. That can be learnt from grief, can be learnt from something traumatic. But at the end of the day, at what age do you become responsible for your own emotions and actions?
Yeah.
I think that's the big shift, right? We talk about shift a lot is you need to be responsible for your own actions and just take like ownership of it.
Yeah. How does someone, that sounds easier said than done. Chloe. How does someone acknowledge their emotions or take control? What would be like the first step that you would take to take them on that?
Name it. Absolutely name it. You know, like especially with us high achievers and sometimes we can have big egos and we think that we're better than we are sometimes and, you know, because we're achieving all these great things and we're perfect in every aspect of our life. But we're not acknowledging that we're suppressing our emotions. So journaling it, talking about it, and bringing like light to it, naming the emotion, right? And taking responsibility of it means taking an action. Yeah. So I believe that we all have within us the natural capacity to heal and to regulate our own emotions. Whatever upbringing we had in life, whatever childhood we have, we always have a choice to learn how to regulate our own emotions and take responsibility for the choices we have in our life. So name it, make an action plan because as high achievers, we're very good at making to-do lists.
What would be an action plan? Like, can you do an example?
Of an action plan?
Yeah. Do an emotion and then an action plan. Because I was like, but what would I do?
Okay.
What would I do?
Right. Okay. So what is a big emotion that comes up for you regularly? Not just like anxiety, like something specific.
See, then even the emotions, I'm like, oh, what?
Would it be for you as though like perfectionism, like this has to be this?
Yeah, let's go perfectionism. Yeah,
so like this podcast had to be absolutely perfect before I launched it.
Yeah, my first episode. Yep. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So your podcast had to be absolutely perfect and tell me if it wasn't perfect, what would have happened?
Okay, so this is funny. My producers are looking at me. But my first episode came out and I didn't like the like the amount I said certain words because it was very raw, it was very authentic. So I had a mini panic attack, which I never do. I'm normally better than that. Not panic attack, but like I definitely broke down. I was on the floor crying. Because I was like, this has got to be, it's the first episode that everybody listens to. But me getting out of that moment, wow, I can't believe I'm sharing this, but me getting out of that moment, like I had to realize I can control what I can control. And in the outcome was actually good. Everyone received it really, really well. But at the same time, I put so much pressure on that. So my action step at that time was not ideal.
Okay. So what I'm hearing is you were trying to make something completely perfect. You're aware that nothing in life is perfect, but you made – what are you about to say?
No, I'm not
Oh, I was like, you're about to say something. But you made a plan to rectify it. Looking back on it now, you probably would have made different choices.
Totally.
But you've just taken responsibility for it.
Yeah.
Because the first step is always to name it. And if you don't name it, you can't think about it, you can't make an action plan, and you can't take responsibility, right?
Yeah.
So action plan is always the first part, is naming it. Can I change it? Yes or no?
Yeah.
If you can, what is the most appropriate way to go?
Yeah.
So I never suggest for my clients or even my friends or anyone to be making life-changing decisions when you're in that state of mind, because you're going to regret whatever decision you make, right? So, for instance, could you have had that afternoon to have your mentee be and then woke up the next day and made a decision about it?
Yeah.
Like, was it something that you had to get done that afternoon?
Yeah. For me, I allowed myself, like it was a good 45 minutes of bawling, and then was like, Monique, snap out of it, because you can control certain things. So do what you can control. And I took action and I did that. But I guess I'm always hard on myself for the first reaction that I had, because I was like, Monique, you know better.
And I guess going back to the first thing you said at the start of the episode was you've been hard on yourself since grade 5. So that is something that you've learnt. That's something you brought through to adulthood, to your career. I mean, you said that you were like locoming around Australia, right? So you've always been a high achiever. You've always been striving for the next best thing. How have you learnt to slow down?
Yeah, I think it's also something that I have had to actively learn. And I think as a lot of women I know struggle with who are high achievers, it's like they have to realize that you're going to burn yourself out. Like I am very, very good with my health. So thank goodness, because I would have been completely burnt out, and I have the energy to go. Motivation isn't my issue. My issue is resting.
Yeah, okay.
And so I think I have had to learn that, yes, rest is productive because I'm able to think better. I'm able to. So reframing it in that way for me has been so helpful. But also at the end of the day, my worth, which I am unlearning, is not tied to my output and my productivity and being the best, because we're someone, I know you are as well. It's like you have dreams, you have big goals, you want to achieve all these things, but it doesn't mean that who you are as a person should be attached to that outcome.
Yeah, that's so powerful. And imagine if you knew that when you were in grade 5.
Oh my gosh.
Do you know what I mean? Like hindsight is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Something you just said was you don't struggle with motivation, you struggle with resting. I think a lot of the listeners are maybe the opposite. They struggle with motivation, they struggle with a low mood, trying to pick themselves up after. I mean, majority of my clients, you know, coming from like that psychotherapist lens and grief and loss and stuff, they're struggling on how to pick themselves up from rock bottom.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So they are also a high achiever, and their career and everything that surface level and other people see is absolutely perfect. But as you said at the start of the episode is, you know, but what's happening behind it? And what is happening behind it is, for me personally, I was like wallowing in my bed like straight after I finished work, but still showing up on social media.
Yeah.
You know, like I was still going to my friends' weddings dressed up perfectly, but I would be going home that night crying my eyes out because my mum wouldn't be at my wedding, right? So I think it's important to acknowledge that some of us don't struggle with motivation, we struggle with rest. And I think we've touched on rest quite a lot through this episode. But for those people listening, how do they pick themselves up from rock bottom when they're high achievers?
Yeah.
that's a big topic. It's probably a whole nother episode.
Probably. What would be the one thing you tell your clients first up?
Just start, like personally for me, I think you have to be ready to pick yourself up. And I think from what you'd mentioned earlier was when you asked me what would I have changed if I go back now to Chloe during that time, I actually would have just let myself rest, right? I would have let myself, because that is a normal reaction to be curled up in bed. So I would not let myself feel guilty about it. But how do you do that now? Like hindsight is a beautiful thing, right? And that is where those micro habits are so important. Like somatic healing is so important. Like regulating your nervous system is so powerful. And I think everyone's starting to catch on to it now. Like they're listening to a lot of these other podcasts that are talking about it and how important it is to slow down and rest and regulate your nervous system, which you do a lot of work in. And you can see the product that happens when we do these things.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it's so important that we keep raising awareness to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. Chloe, we have unpacked so much today.
Yes.
If there was one thing that you could leave the listeners with and take away, what would it be?
That is a big one. I would say grief and loss isn't always about crying in bed and being lost and losing yourself. It's also about coming home to yourself and letting yourself feel these emotions, because we're human, we're not a machine. So I think the most important thing is to name the emotion, let yourself feel it, because it is so nice on the other side. And if more people knew that, if more people and women let themselves be more soft, I think that they would live a more quality of life and find love in the little things.
I love that. Find love in the little things.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up, you looked at her file at the beginning and you're like, oh, what is this? Every person that comes in this episode opens her file, which is questions in there. You pick one of your favorites, but it's helping us understand how you became who you were. And we've unpacked a lot of your behind the scenes, but it's letting us go that little bit deeper into a specific area. So there's 3 questions. Pick your favorite. Whatever comes into your brain, choose that one.
Oh my God. Okay. So the question I picked is, if your younger self could see you now, what would she say? I only did this last week, so
Perfect.
If younger Chloe could see me now, she would be so proud of continuing her mum's legacy of being a high achiever, combining that with a beautiful family, finding the small things in life.
Yeah.
Because mum was someone who enjoyed watering the garden of an afternoon with a glass of wine and sitting down with my sister and I, and we would always, I don't know if you did as a little kid, but we would go shopping and we'd do like a fashion show when we got home.
Oh, of course.
Yeah,
my sister and I still do it.
And my sister's little girls, my little nieces my niece did that on the weekend. So my advice would be to slow down, and everything's going to work out the way it's meant to. And it will get hard along the way, but you will make it in the end.
Chloe Cassidy, thank you for coming. That was
Thank
absolutely
you for having
beautiful.
me. Thank you for having me.
Of course.
It was amazing.